Hello my friends, welcome and welcome back to my channel. My name is Novella. Today is Friday and I want to talk about one book. Well, not one book, it's actually a trilogy. It is written by Agota Kristof. It's called The Notebook, The Proof, and The Third Line. A lot of people read only The Notebook, but that's a huge mistake. Even people dare to say don't read the two other books because it ruins everything. Well, if you believe in fairy tales, then yes, only read the first book and they live long and happy ever after. Like everybody else in our world, everybody has a perfect life. No. Let's start with Agota Kristof herself. Agota Kristof is or was Hungarian. She was born in Hungary and during the anti-communist revolution in, was it 1957 or something like that, she fled the country together with her husband and their newborn. She was like 21, 22, very young. And they fled to Switzerland. They settled down in Neuchâtel, which is the French part of Switzerland. Together with her child, she learns the French language whilst doing homework together with her I think it's a son, but I'm not sure if she had a boy or a girl, it doesn't matter. During that period, she worked in a factory, very numbing work, and the only thing she had to do was puncturing holes into something. I don't know what it was, but that's the only thing she said. She had to puncture as much holes as she possibly could. Very numbing work, but she liked that because it gave her time to think about the things she wanted to write. Now, she never wrote in Hungarian, she only wrote in French. But when you learn a language after your childhood, your language level stays lower than when you would learn it during your childhood. So your vocabulary, look at me, vocabulary is a lot simpler. But that makes it only more ruthless, and it really, especially the way she writes, it's a slap in your face. She thinks that everything she writes, because she wanted to write about herself, but she wasn't able to, so everything she wrote was a lie. And when she wanted to write about Switzerland, it was impossible too. So yeah, she couldn't write about Switzerland and her time there. She had to write about her past, about a life on the other side of the wall, of the fence. So that's already very important. And she always was a refugee throughout her life. And there were amongst the refugees a lot of people who committed suicide. And somebody asked her, why do so many refugees commit suicide? And she said, well, there's nothing else to do for fun. So you already know what her kind of humor is. Now, back to the books. A lot of booktubers and reviewers say only read The Notebook. That's the first book in this trilogy. I think that's a huge mistake. You have to read all three of them because they are important. They make the first book weaker and stronger. And they make you realize that there are many versions of the truth. And that's why this book is so brilliant. So, first book. They live in a country, probably Hungary, or somewhere else, And they are a mother and her twin sons, Lucas and Klaus. Beautiful sons, blonde, blue-eyed, looking like angels. Very well educated, very well, educated, that's the right word. I mean, they know how to read, they know how to write, they are musicians, they love reading, their vocabulary is very advanced for their age. But yeah, the Second World War breaks out and the mother decides to flee. And she decides to drop her children off at their grandmother's, but the children never met their mother's mother. They never met their grandmother. The grandmother is known as the witch in the village. The witch. She lives close to the border, and it's the last house of the village. That's very important. Now, the grandmother doesn't know the grandchildren. The children are outside and the mother is inside, and they hear their mother talking to their grandmother. Mother says, "They're your grandsons." "My grandsons? I don't even know them. How many are there?" Two boys, twins. The other voice asks, "What have you done with the others?" Mother asks, "With the others? Bitches have 4 or 5 puppies at a time. You keep 1 or 2 and drown the others." The other voice laughs loudly. So yeah, quite the beginning. The children are dumped with their grandmother, known as the witch, and she calls the children sons of a bitch. Yeah. The children have to be very much self-sufficient. They have to provide for their own food, they have to do chores, and they set themselves really strange tasks, like not feeling any pain anymore. So what do? They torture each other. And they keep on saying, "I don't feel any pain, I don't feel any pain," while they're doing that. They fast. They do all kinds of things. They do all kinds of tests. They start begging, and just to know what it's like to beg. And at a certain point, there's a woman who offers them a job in return for soup and bread, because everybody has a difficult time. It's wartime. And they say, "We don't want to work for you, madam. We don't want to eat your soup or your bread. We are not hungry." She asks, "Then why are you begging?" "To find out what effect it has and to observe people's reactions." She walks off shouting, "Dirty little hooligans, and impertinent too." On our way home, we throw the apples, the biscuits, the chocolate, and the coins in the tall grass by the roadside. But it is impossible to throw away the stroking on our hair. In a way, they teach themselves to be numb, to be a sort of robots, and they become quite immoral. But because they're so beautiful, it is difficult for people to hate them. And they view their world almost always through peepholes. They observe, they see everything. They see their neighbor, Hairlip, being treated as an animal, and therefore she does the things that she does. They see the priest abusing, they see through peepholes their grandmother taking off her clothes, but it's just a couple of layers she peels off. There's still more clothing, as if there is more depth to her cruelness. The grandmother is also sort of a metaphor for the way refugees are treated in the Western world, because although the grandmother doesn't really feed them and doesn't wash them, doesn't give them clothes, she has a lot of food in the basement that is almost molding because she doesn't eat it fast enough, but she refuses to give it to the children. And in a way, it's saying like rich countries have more than enough, more than sufficient, but they refuse to give it to the poor. And a lot of things happen, a lot of disturbing things happen. They meet a very strange officer that asks them to do very strange things and very kinky stuff. They see all kinds of weird stuff and they do all kinds of cruel stuff. They are very immoral towards the end of the Notebook. Why is it called the Notebook? Well, everything that we read is written down as if they had made notes. Especially if you had a diary when you were a child and you look at it, there is a very particular way you see the world because you don't understand everything yet. And that's why the text is written the way it is. She uses we all the time. So we go to the village, we sing, we dance, it's always we. It's not Lucas or it's not Klaus. It's we, as if they are one and the same. Now, the second book, The Proof, we follow Lucas, who is alone, and because Klaus is gone. And he meets all kinds of people, and the more and more you get into the book, the more and more you start doubting what has really happened. He meets strange people. He meets a girl with a son. That girl had a relationship with her father, hence the son. Lucas loves the son and raises him as his own. But things start to happen, and cruel things happen, and disturbing things happen. And then we come to the third book, The Third Lie. And there it becomes clear what Agota Kristof says about everything she wanted to write about herself is a lie. She wants to say that the things we remember is a story that we tell ourselves. But that story isn't necessarily true. And that's what makes it so fascinating. Once you've finished the third book that is written in the I form, you really want to read the Notebook again, because the Notebook is a sort of a Bible. Everything in there is written as it was, or that's what the kids said. But is it true? When they were taken away by their mother from their old home and brought to the grandmother, they brought the dictionary of their father and the Bible. And they read the Bible as a novel, not as the Word of God. And at a certain point, they meet a priest and they start to ask him questions about the Bible. The priest says, you are too young to understand everything that's in the Bible. And they say, but you're old enough to explain it to us. All those kind of things. And it's so well done, so well done. This book is for me a masterpiece because it is very disturbing all the time. There are a lot of things happening that are really, really revolting. They kill. There's bestiality, there's incest, there's everything you can imagine. There's sadomasochism, there's pedophilia. All sorts of things happen. But yet it has a sort of meaning. And of course there's some shock value in the book, but it's also very intriguing. And because she writes with so simple wording, it cuts through you like a knife. And that's what makes this book so brilliant. It is a masterpiece. And I highly advise you to read it and read all three of them. You will be angry at me. You will for reading the other two. That's necessary to keep the first book alive, to keep it even more interesting. It reads very fast, very simple, very short chapters, 2-3 pages. They all have a title, The Human Herd, here the air raids, theater, we expand our repertoire, the officer's friend, the foreign language. Language is very, very important in this book. So that's also something that comes back from Agota Kristof's life itself. It's very magnetic. The story is very written in a way that is so magnetic and then draws you in. It's so engrossing and so fascinating. An amazing book. Read it. All three of them. Don't stop. Don't listen to the other booktubers. Don't listen to the people on Goodreads that they don't like part 2 and 3, that it's lesser. It isn't. It isn't. It isn't.